Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess we can start with the potential landmarks letter. I'm happy to report that we received one response. I believe there's only one response so far.
Yes.
And it was from the owner of Pittismont on Van Dyke. So he has contacted one of our consultants. I believe he contacted Jason Hart.
Well, at least him. I don't know if he may have contacted other people, but Jason's the only one that emailed to see what information that we had on hand.
Are we allowed to recommend a consultant?
We cannot recommend if folks ask, and actually with the letters, we send them the names off of the state's consultants list,
Yeah.
as well as other, as well as anybody else that we know has successfully prepared a landmark designation application. So if there's someone you think we should add to the list, we can do it, but we can't. We couch it in language as this person has successfully prepared a report. We can't, directly recommend.
Okay.
That makes sense. We do the same thing with, contractors and the like as well, architects and such.
Why are we talking about a consultant? Is it so that a consultant could write a study report for the people that are interested?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he and his wife need some assistance navigating this whole thing. Are they typically responsible for that? So they guide them through the whole process.
Oh, you mean the consultant for guiding them through the process?
Yeah.
Not usually. Like once the application report is done, then staff takes on that role. Once it is an application has made it to research committee, such as the one I'll bring to you this morning, we then prepare. We've got a document that lists the, all the various meetings and steps, and we put in the estimated dates, and then we just stay in email contact with the applicant, letting them know where things are.
Okay. Have we been contacted by anyone else, yay or nay? No.
No, not at this point.
Okay.
I don't know. One, I mean, we usually don't get any response, so I'm considering this a huge win.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on then, I guess, to the landmark designation. I'm curious about that because I mean, it actually did cross my mind the other day about her house because we hadn't talked about it in a few months.
Right. We had it for last month and just forgot to bring it to you. So this is, let's see, hold on. And I sent you a link just this morning, so you can look at it afterwards. So the thought is that, oops, well, you have a choice. The application and report has been submitted. I sent you the link. Here's Nicole. And you can either, well, hold on, let me, I'll just do a quick summary of it. I'm not sure if everyone was there. So that this particular owner came to the research committee before filing the report to see if it was, y'all thought it had the potential to have the special significance. You said, yes, go for it. It's a circa 1851 house, oldest in Oakwood, and it's, has evolved in its styles over the time, with a kitchen wing added in late 19th century, and in the early 20th century, it was clad in brick and a slate roof was added, and it was changed over time. And then with the addition of the porte cochere and a sunroom, and then in 2012 there was a fire and the house was uh, rehabilitated. That's sort of I think, a gentle word after the fire, but they retained a lot of the historic fabric post-fire. And so the next step for research committee is to make a recommendation either as the committee. So you can, you can read the report over the next month, and then May at your May meeting, have a discussion and make a formal vote. Or if you prefer, we can go ahead and get it on the April agenda with everyone having read the report, and then one of you can make the motion individually. It doesn't really matter from a timing standpoint. If someone else, so from a processing standpoint, staff prefers to have multiple applications sort of landing at city council at the same time, so that we don't have multiple meetings, and we're early enough in the year that we don't risk the applicant missing a January deadline for being able to apply to get the property tax deferral. So we do have a little bit of wiggle room if you want to wait until May and see if we get that other application in. I don't know how quickly he's going to move.
I think we should wait until May.
Okay, and then you can all read it and discuss.
Yeah.
So
Tanya,
the PDF.
could you please resend it to me? I don't know that I have it, and if I got it, it might have been.
I literally sent it this morning.
Oh, perfect.
Like
okay.
15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago. So, and it's a link to the Dropbox, so which everybody should have access to already anyway. But
yeah, I haven't received anything. Should I have gotten it?
I haven't either.
oh, maybe you weren't.
I don't see it. I do have it. Let me go see who else was on it.
I think that you only sent it to me,
Oh.
Colette, and Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an error. I very specifically intended, well, I thought I was sending it to everybody.
Yeah, I
when
didn't get it
clicked
either.
Okay, hold on. There the sentiments.
It sounds familiar. We've talked about this before, or we've seen some information on it before, but maybe not a full report.
Correct.
Hey, y'all, I'm going to have to switch over to my phone for this meeting because an inspector just told me he's going to be at my job between 8 and 10. So I'm going to have to get in the car here in a second.
Okay. Okay, there we go. I replied to the wrong message. You should have it shortly.
Got it. Thank you.
Great.
Same. Thank you.
Anya, can you give us an update on the African American survey update?
Yes, I can. So the application is due next week, and it is complete. It is in the hands of the city's grant manager. We have to ask permission before we can file for grants. But I will hear back from them today or tomorrow, and I don't anticipate any issues. We have the funds. It's the type of grant that we've received before. I did, in this same folder as the report, included the draft application. I'll have to get it signed, but by one of the city managers. But the abstract is, so you're requesting a $20,000 grant to assist with a total of a $40,000 project. I sent out a sort of a there were a handful of consultants that have done this kind of work. I did a blind copy, just rough estimate, rough idea of the scope, so we knew how much we needed to ask for the grant. And with the goal being, and we'll still have to do a formal RFP, and they understand that. But the goal will be threefold: to identify, document properties related to African American history that were not surveyed in any of the prior survey updates, and it's related to African American history since 1945. Two, to survey individual properties associated with the civil rights movement, and three, to survey properties associated with African American architects and builders. And based on what we do know, and we'll be covering the entire city limits, not just a specific area of town, although we think we know the concentration. It's anticipated that there will be about 450 properties surveyed. So we do know one neighborhood, Biltmore, warrants a survey that hadn't been done before. There is pre-work that we will need to do, regardless of whether we get the grant, or if we don't, or we get a different amount, then I think we can still pursue the project in smaller chunks. But such as pulling together, maps of the areas of the city that have already been surveyed and what we already know, we'll do that for the consultant. I did get one of them provided what I think is a great suggestion, which is that we facilitate the formation of a task force or committee, which of course would include the research committee, but also local historical groups or leaders in the African American community have partners to help us generate leads and support for the project. So I think that's something that we can pursue now.
I have some, the last couple of meetings I brought up, I know we're going to talk about the reprinting of Culture Town shortly, but I brought that up a couple of times. And so I have, over the last month, talked with several people who are, remember I mentioned that I knew actually he was just named one of the 20 in Raleigh, Greer Webb, a young man who was very involved in the African American community. And I'm actually Courtney, I forgot her last name now. It's a woman who is very involved in Southeast Raleigh. She's a leader in African American history and property in this area, as well as the North Carolina Preservation Group, because my neighbor was part of it in the spring 2020, did a whole piece on African American housing and what happened to a specific family. And then there's a book called Crafting Lives, which I'm sure you probably all are familiar with, by Catherine Bisher, who I've also been in touch with. So I think there are several people already that I've reached out to, and I'm reaching out to another gentleman today on this topic. So I'm open and interested in making it inclusive in the community in a way that's respectful of all of these people who've done a fair amount of historical work already, and integrating them into this project, because I think it will have a very meaningful impact on the city as well as on the African American community. So, you know, whatever I can do to initiate that, I'm glad to do that. And I can start, I haven't been because I've just been having the conversations, but whatever you all would like me to do, I can start documenting it. I can help build the, I just feel like before we reprint or, you know, we've now got this global research being done, which I think is wonderful. I think we need to integrate that into the next topic in the Culture Town book, like an addendum or an addition to it, or begin to ask some of these people to write a foreword, you know, to the book. You know, some of these people who have been instrumental in leading African American cultural heritage, architectural history in our area.
That's excellent work, Susan. Thank you. I think initially, if you could send staff an email of the with the you know names and contact information for you know everyone you've spoken with. I think what I think what we should do is bring this idea from the research committee to the full commission. And I think that we may want to, it'll be led by research committee, but we'll want to loop in community awareness to help get the word. But for next month, I think what we really need, and if you want to, you know, start crafting that with me over the next month, Susan, with Ian's okay, is come up with, you know, sort of a plan. What do we want these what do we want to just contact people individually? Do we want to bring them together to have a conversation? So it is, you know, more of a committee / task force, you know, how do you want to how should this be structured is the question. And then also be able to be clear and say what RHDC is looking for from them. What kind of information are we seeking? Is it the names of people who would be the best to be interviewed? Because I'm anticipating that we would have, you know, some oral histories as part of this. I think I said all I need to.
I'd also like to add, I agree with you. I think we need to determine what we're exactly looking for from this. I mostly reached out because of connections and friendships and said, hey, I'm on this committee and I'm finding there's kind of a need to look into in a broader, maybe richer way than we have recently, the African American community, and people have been very forthcoming and very interested. But most importantly, I think to these people and they asked me, everyone has asked me, what are you going to do with this? So I'd like to talk about what our vision, you know, and we can do this, Tanya, or the whole committee can do it, however you want to approach it. But I'd like to know what we're doing with this research, because one of the things that I think will matter a lot is that our characterization of the research and then our ensuing usage is going to matter not only to the immediate future, but the next phase of the historic planning of the Raleigh area, but also help answer some of the questions that we ask all the time in the whole committee, the whole RHDC, which is, you know, what is our position on history of the African American community in Raleigh? Like, do we keep this house? Do we list the house? Do we take down this? Do we not take down that? I mean, I think if we have more background and more research, we'll be able to answer those questions in a more effective way. And we can eventually develop a position for the committee that we're comfortable with as a committee. And hold to that as the city, so the city can be comfortable that this is what they're going to get from us. I know we don't have any authority, but we do have a voice. And it's a voice right now the city is listening to. And I think that's extremely important.
Thank you, Susan. So, Tanya, where are we on the Culture Town reprint?
Not very far, other than we did get interest from state archives, and I can't remember if I reported this at a prior meeting or not, so this might be duplicative, but the plates that we donated have not yet been digitized. And Van Evans said that they would reach out to a publishing friend to find out what the quality would need to be if we were going to do a reprint, and I haven't heard back, and I think I did a quick poke on to see if there's any other feedback. So the news is that it's possible. I think that having it be a collaborative effort between the state, the city museum, and RHDC is certainly feasible, because it's also something that the museum is interested in. So no real progress, and we would want to have have either a forward or an addendum or whatever down the, I mean, certainly we would need to have a forward if to reprint it as is. The question then would be, what do we want to do with this new information?
Did you say that you had nudged him or not nudged him?
I think I did. I will.
Because I can ask him if you want.
Yeah, why don't you ask? Yeah.
Okay.
Because now I remember thinking that I was going to nudge him, but I honestly don't remember if I actually did.
Great. I'm curious about Star Mount.
Okay, so a property owner in Starmount has reached out a couple of times, first back before Christmas. She and some neighbors are interested in some level of historic designation. And so I've had some email correspondence and a couple phone calls with her talking about, you know, the difference between historic overlay district designation versus National Register listing, and the guidance I gave her for next steps was to you know, pull together a group of people. Apparently there's a new civic association that has been formed that she didn't know a whole lot about, so she's gonna said she would reach out to them. So we may be hearing from them. I suggested that she, you know, if she pulled some people together, that staff and or someone from this committee would, you know, attend and talk about the differences. I encouraged her to think of it initially as just pursuing National Register designation, because that is easier and friendlier, and the report would be the same if they did choose to go for the regulatory piece. So that's what I know. It is we do have a boundary that has already been placed on the state study list, which is the first step towards National Register designation.
I was anticipating you telling me they were seeking a neighborhood conservation overlay. But,
I have not heard that.
What's the difference between that and the one they want?
So a neighborhood conservation district is it's very quantitative. So, and it is something that is not managed by the preservation team because it's not dependent on the history. It is specifically just the physical aspect of it. So if the process moves forward, planning staff would do a study looking at, you know, setbacks, building heights, lot size, and things like that. And then the neighborhood would choose which criteria they would want to have in the neighborhood conservation overlay district, which would, and then it eventually, if it passes, it's through city council, it gets in the comprehensive plan. And what it means is that any new construction would have to be within whatever parameters they choose, have to be, set back to meet. So it provides some level of protection as far as, basic form character, but not historic character.
Okay.
And so once it gets in, it's just part of the regular planning, permitting process. So it's very, it's not subjective at all. It's all about the numbers. Excuse me.
And National Register.
National Register provides it is honorary only. It does offer up the potential for applying for rehabilitation tax credits, but that is an opt-in by the property owner. And then, of course, historic overlay district designation, either general like Oakwood and Boylan Heights and Oberlin, or street side like Glenwood, Brooklyn. That's where you would need a certificate of appropriateness. And the base level report for either National Register designation or historic overlay district is the same.
Did they say why they were seeking this?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't think there are any active teardowns she's concerned about, but it's just a general love of the neighborhood and concern of what potentially could happen.
Gotcha. Okay. In that light, I have a question. Maybe not even a question, but it occurred to me that after seeing a tear down and a new construction in the Kirby Bilieu, that little, you familiar? It occurred to me that might be a good candidate for National Register, but just wanted to throw that out there.
It wouldn't, well, again, we can't stop tear downs at all, even with the local designation, but yeah, that's an interesting idea, to incentivize people to hang on to what's there and just build off of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that
That's
area
a lot of change.
Yeah. Do you know what's the time frame for when those of the neighborhood? Do you know, Ian?
Early 40s, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Because I don't remember that as having been surveyed specifically. We can look and see if that has been looked at all in any of the surveys.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a neat little neighborhood.
Where is it again?
It's off of Western Boulevard, across from Pullen Park.
It's kind of sandwiched up against Dix Park and the Catholic Church in Western.
Yeah. I believe it was housing for a lot of Dix workers. Cool, I don't have anything else. Thank you, Susan, for all your work. Anybody else have anything?
I just want to wrap back around to what Susan was talking about and thinking about thinking about the African-American Resources Survey update, how that fits into a larger project and what we're doing. And maybe plan on, I don't think that this should be a conversation between, me and Susan. I think this needs to be a, a committee discussion. So, bring it up for the full commission if you want to, put that on the agenda, Ian, but I'm thinking that we should all be prepared to come back in May with, ideas of what you want to get out of it, how you think that we can tie in to, sorry, the words are not coming. How you think that we can look at African American history a little bit more holistically while still sticking to the mission of, identifying, preserving, and protecting, extant historic resources. So, and perhaps, if other people know of other groups that we may want to partner with as well. So,
Can I suggest I always feel like when you make something inclusive, which I'm totally in favor of, it needs to have something for people to react to. I mean, I come from the world of writing and editing. So when I give someone a blank piece of paper, they're like, oh, freak out city. But when I give someone something to react to, I get tremendous feedback and tremendous inclusiveness. So I'd like to propose that and I understand that I'm not the expert on the committee and its, perspective on everything, or frankly on most things. But I think that we can approach this from the angle of what is it we need to accomplish? What has been missing from the work we've been doing? Because I think there is we now know a few things that are missing, and what we're trying to do to solve those things. Because if we can approach it from the perspective of what's incomplete and what needs to be complete, then people can say, well, we've done that. I mean, the research I've done has come back to me with, we have not yet reached out to these people that I've spoken with and gotten them involved. And there may be others, and I'm sure there are. But I'd like to say, what we don't have is a platform for reacting to historic preservation from the African American community's perspective, not just our perspective, but from that community's perspective. And then I think the other thing that's been missing is a way for the committee to understand and consistently update historical perspective and getting input on that. So maybe there can be I'm making this up, but a constant opening, once a year, touching this committee that whoever was recommended and saying, have we missed anything? Did you learn anything? I mean, I kind of want to avoid the once and done thing that I think is easy for committees to do because it's never on the front burner of anyone's work. So if maybe you and I, Tanya, and maybe Ian, if you have time, want to do this, can at least put something down so that we can bring it to the research committee for reaction and maybe to the whole committee for reaction. And I'm not trying to put more work on anyone's plate, but I'm kind of trying to get it to a place where it's actionable and it's hopefully comfortable for everybody to react to. That's all. Got nothing more to say.
I appreciate that completely. I think a conversation include Aaron and Colette on this, and I think we can have a conversation to bring something back so that we can pull some.
I think Susan obviously makes some really good points and points out a lot of. It's a big issue, hard to nail down exactly what's the most important things to focus on, and I think focus is what the committee needs to do. And I can hear that Tanya's saying the same thing. I guess we only have limited time and limited money, and we got to decide how it's spread about. And this is a very important topic. Susan, I would suggest, and I don't know if Tanya or Ian agree, but you could even present a proposal, type something up or send an email that says, here's exactly what I've been thinking about. and that might be easier to guide our discussion. Because I don't think we could, well, we could, but it may take a while just to kind of brainstorm all this because it's a big topic.
Well, now, from my perspective, I'd like to get clear on what the state of things are. So we have the document Culture Town that was published pre-digital. We need to digitize it, and we want to add some kind of amendment or forward to update it and then do a reprint. Is that the kind of where it stands? But we just need to figure out what form those updates will take and what to include.
A little bit, and I think that's part of what Susan is offering to help us define Culture Town. So there has not been a specific study of African American history in Raleigh since the late 80s. So there was a survey done in a report done in 88 and a survey done in 89, I think, and then Culture Town was, came out of that, as well as a Raleigh Roots project, which did have a task force and committee that brought that together. So Culture Town was printed in 93, and we've picked up and learned more about, Overland Village was surveyed, determined not to be eligible for the National Register. The College Park, Idlewild area had a survey, was determined not to be now, so there have been a few pieces, and there were a few neighborhoods that were built out in between 1945 and 65 that in that survey that happened to be African American, even though that's not what we were specifically geared towards. So we have not holistically looked at it since the 80s. And I have, in my pulling things together in preparation for filing the grant, have collated things together. But part of the issue is it is fragmented right now. So the consultant that we hire will help pull some, coalesce all of the information we have. But the piece that we really don't have is what Susan has been talking about, which is talking with people out there to find, because right now we don't know what we don't know. So.
Yeah, my main
Okay,
concern
thank
is often,
you.
my main concern is often that we, in my personal life and professional, is I don't want to recreate the wheel, reinvent it. So I'm one who says, well, let's see what's been done already, which I'm not familiar with, but it's, Tanya just mentioned several things that have happened. So it would do me some good, obviously, to kind of review some of those and kind of see where we are. And on top of that, it sounds like the grant for the survey update would go a long way towards what Susan's talking about as well. So definitely review the existing literature is how we say it. Ian, I think you're aware with that. There's always a background section where you review what's already been done, and then based on that, you can kind of find areas that need more work.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think that's the point, is to start to document what we know is out there and then talk about what we need. That's my world, is identify what's been done and then come up with solutions to solve the things you've uncovered that haven't been done. So I think that's what we have to do. And I'm willing to, if Tanya's willing to help me, I'm willing to propose, but I don't have the history. So if you can help supply that, I can raise things that I've been finding are missing and put together something that suggests this is what we have and this is where we need to go. The least of which clearly is to update something from 1980. This is 2021, so that's 40 years. Or close to 40 years. And we've learned a lot. I mean, think of all that's changed in the last 40 years. So I think that and I'm willing to draft it. I mean, I'm part of this committee. I have a reason to be part of it. I'm not an architect, so I can't contribute on the level all of you wonderful people do. But, I'm a business person. So I'm always looking for how do you do something without repeating, learning from what you've done, and doing it cost effectively. That's the way I approach everything I do. So I'll go whatever direction you all want, but that's the reason I suggested we take this time, put a stake in the sand, and look at what we've done and where we want to go.
Yeah, and one of the things Tanya brought up was the date range. I don't know if everybody knows, I would assume some know that 50 years of age is the sort of the threshold for National Register. So, for instance, something that was surveyed in 1993, there have been things that just because of their age have become eligible to be considered because they're now 50 years old and they were not then. Right, Tanya?
That is absolutely correct. And to have a little bit of time longevity, this part of the bigger project, the survey, would be looking at things from 1945 to 1975. So what I propose, if you're okay with this, Ian, is that staff set up a meeting with Susan in a couple of weeks. I'm out next week, so maybe week after next. I can send. I've got a document where I literally just like cut and pasted snippets from the various surveys related to African American history, just so you can at least read through that, and maybe even. Anyway, I can send you some sort of prep information that I found about what was done before, what's been done since, and then we can talk and to help you, sorry, so that in May you're able to bring something for the committee to react to. Susan, does that make sense?
I do that. I'd love to see your document, and I would also suggest if there's anyone on the committee who wants to join this, feel free. I didn't make it everybody because I was like, you guys all have day jobs and I right now don't. So I took it upon myself because I have the availability to do it. But you all,
time independent. I would love to join.
Okay.
For that.
Great. Well, we'll send you a note, and if you can make it great. Terrific.
Yeah, and I want a copy of Culture Town. So if anybody's got one, let me know.
Good luck with that.
But when the reprint comes through, we're gonna have handfuls. So.
Okay, good idea. All right, I have to run, group. So Tanya, reach out to me. My time's really flexible, so I'll coordinate with whatever works for everyone else. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Susan.
you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Susan.
Tanya, did you hear me when I said that I'd like to be on the meeting with you?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Thanks. Cool. Anything else? Alrighty. Well, I'll see y'all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.